what is Christiania?
Yeah, what is Christiania? Well, in short, it's a self-governing community in the middle of Copenhagen. Like you said, it's around, I think it's like what you call 7 acres big. The size is around 7 acres. It's not that big, and it is squatted area. It was founded in 1971 by squatters from the local area that moved in. It was mainly actually locals, people who lived in the area close to this big empty area that became empty after the Navy stopped using the land. And the Navy then slowly moved away from the area, and there was this like big empty land. So people who lived in the area were thinking, "Hi, hey, I live in this like small apartment with my children, you know, and my children, they don't even have a playground to play in, you know. Why is that fair that there's this big chunk of land just sitting there that we can't use?" So they basically broke down the fence and moved in, and that's in 71, so that's almost 50 years ago. And in the beginning, around that time in Denmark, it was a very short time where there was no government, which is not very normal in Denmark. Denmark is a very regulated society, small democratic society, very, very well regulated. But there was this like kind of little hole in time where they couldn't find out. There had just been an election and they couldn't agree on to form a government, so there was no government. So the ministry just had no minister, so they sent like the Minister of Interior just to send them a guy out there to kind of assess the situation, said what's going on with who are these people who moved in. And you have to remember it's 71, so it's you know, it's around 68, you know, with all these huge, what we call now the boomer generation. It was a huge generation, and there were a lot of things going on with what they call the youth riots, and in France, and the March on Vietnam, and all these things. So there was a lot of there was a lot of things happening politically speaking. And so he came out there and looked at these guys and these women and said, oh, well, he found them to be like, he made a pretty positive report, this administrator, and said, hey, they are just young people trying to build another society. So it looks pretty cool what they're doing, and they were well organized, and basically the area was completely run down. The army hadn't maintained it at all, you know, because they hadn't used it at all. They had already moved to other barracks because they lacked funding and they didn't use it. It's really old buildings, so they would run down. You know, all the windows were smashed. You know, there was not a lot of sewage. You know, the sewer system was run down. If there was any sewer system, the buildings were unheated, and basically it was just like a mess. And then people moved in and they started, you know, occupying the buildings that were there and try to fix them, and did this by, you know, whoever wanted to take a place could take a little room for themselves, or place an apartment or whatever, you know, but you had to fix it yourself. So this bureaucracy, like Dave said, just kind of came from naturally, you know. You had to be able to salvage some materials. You had to be able to go to demolition sites. That was pretty popular around that time. They went to the other demolition sites and salvaged all the building materials they could get their hands on, and then they started building. So and then so basically it's an autonomous community, and it stayed that way for a long time as a kind of a political project, you could say that, because it was illegal. It was an illegal squad. Years went by, and then politicians deemed the place illegal as an illegal squad. But at the same time, there was like very mixed emotions about it in Denmark, because some people thought, oh, maybe it's good for these people to have. Maybe it's good for Denmark to have this, you know, for the young people to have something to do with themselves. And it became also like the Social Democratic Party, which is a big party in Denmark, also deemed it a social experiment at one point. So it's been, there are shifting winds all the time, you know, political winds all the time, and it was on the brink of being I'll show you a picture. So as you see, you know, it was pretty run down when you just see it like this, like big piles of dirt and stones, and these two the two children are now grown up, and I know one of them personally. I see him almost every day. He works at a bakery not so far from us, and once a week he drives his cargo bike through Christiania and distributes all the bread that is left over. So we get a lot of free bread from him, Noah. And that's actually the guy to the left, to the right, the hat. And this photo is taken around 75, 76. So that's kind of in the beginning of Christiania.